Perhaps nowhere on Earth has there ever been a group of people more versatile than the
Fakertarians podcast.
If you like sex, you're going to love
This podcast.
with the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis.
I'm not pleased to see you. I just come to Wasp Nest earlier. There are so many of us who have so much to say to women, and we don't. Why? Because we're scared.
Yes, Fakertarians. I am so mad about the content you put out.
Dave is mad. Don't be like Dave. Be happy and listen to this episode of the Fakertarians podcast.
But yeah, I logged into my channel and, well, there was nothing there.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of the Fakertarians podcast. I'm your host, John Hudak, along with Jeremy Kantorowicz. Today we have on Rachel Blackfyre. How are you doing today, Rachel?
Good.
Good. So we're going to go over a few different topics today. One of the ones we were talking about was the libertarian to alt-right pipeline. So when do you think the problems with the libertarian to alt-right pipeline originated? And why do you think the pipeline has been such a big problem in the last few years?
It's been there as long as I've been in the movement. I've been in the movement since like 2015, 2016. Like there's always been strains of it, but since Trump won the election, it's gotten worse. I think a lot of the like figureheads were people who were like on the Ron Paul kick for like fame or money or clout or something. And then like a kind of new thing came up and they went after that.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that too. It was really around the rise of Trump kind of definitely worsened it. I mean, it might have always been around a little bit, but I noticed that was when Molyneux went that way. Cantwell was already starting to go that way, but he really picked up on it then. I've noticed a lot of different ones with that. Do you think there's anything that can be done to stop or slow the pipeline down?
I think if the people that are in the libertarian movement that are socially progressive very much stand up for that value and are really unapologetic about that value, it can like scare some of the people who just aren't ever going to actually believe in freedom off. And like if we focus more on hating the state instead of hating the left, that's something like ANCAPs and other right libertarians do too much. I think that. So
speaking of people who just try to own the left, what do you think of the Mises Caucus?
Half of them are good people that are just really into economics. Like a lot of the ones I know in Maryland are. And then the other half of it is just really annoying alt-right people. Like it's really variable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know you kind of already talked about this or mentioned it, kind of the socially progressive, you think that might be like a main driver of the pipeline is, this culture war, this, fear of changing or, even like, the left is going to take away your penis kind of, attitude or fear that people seem to portray. You think that kind of drives people into this alt-right?
Yeah, it's definitely like they call it reactionary for a reason. It's a reaction to the like kind of left side of the culture war going too far. But like if you talk to people that are socially progressive, most of them think like the SJW stuff is stupid too. Yeah. And yeah. So I think if we can like ally with people who are reasonable but progressive, that's good. Yeah, I mean, but the way like reactionaries act is they're just SJWs for a different side. They're just cultural justice warriors when they claim to be anti-SJW, but they act just like them.
Yeah, you always see this fringe on both sides, and they almost act exactly the same in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I've noticed that they definitely key in on like when they're talking about like being like anti-racist or something, these people key in on like the worst parts of that, like the people who are like say they hate white people or something like that, and then they act like that represents the entire anti-racism movement or anyone who calls themselves anti-racist.
Right, which of course then the other extreme picks up on and identifies anything to the to the left of them as that's what that means, and then it's this feedback loop of just terribleness that ends up coming out of it.
Yeah,
I know that. Yeah,
I didn't like the whole everyone insisting that people like after Joe Jorgensen tweeted like Black Lives Matter or something, everyone lost their shit. Everyone was saying she was a Marxist, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, there might be an organization, but almost no one using that hashtag belongs to that organization.
Right.
It's literally just always been an anti-racism, anti-police brutality thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a bunch of people who are mad about police brutality, and I feel like we should be capitalizing on that, not calling them all communists or something like that. Like, I'm sure there are communists involved, but I mean, I've seen libertarians involved. I've seen like run-of-the-mill liberals, like a bunch of people from different ideologies. And I think it's just kind of a missed opportunity for us to, or for some libertarians to try to just throw that in the garbage.
Yeah, I went to one of the protests and like me and my partner handed out a bunch of books. We don't like Adam Kokesh, but we had a whole case of his books, and they're decent books, so we handed those out. And then a bunch of stuff from FEE, like Foundation for Economic Education. And people took the books. I hope they read them. But no one was like mean to us. Like that, they're fine with libertarians being there. I got really pissed off after the Garrett Foster thing.
Oh yeah.
Because holy shit, one of ours was just murdered, and you people are still going on about BLM?
Yeah, I saw some people in the Mises Caucus group. I mean, there were some with good responses. I'll say that. Josh Smith had a good response. Heiss had a good response for Heiss, like with my low expectations of him. But there were some people in there like talking about how, oh, like that's what you get. You made your bed for hanging out with commies. Like it was pretty gross.
Yeah, this fear that that's a lot of all so many people participated in, protests this summer. I mean, it was in the tens of millions. I can't recall the exact figure that they said, but yeah, okay. You really believe that every single one of them is just a communist. Like that's just completely dismissive behavior. Of course it drums up reactionary support and continues to fuel this pipeline, especially of the grifters, just continues to fuel this and just is just this feedback loop, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
Okay, what else do we got here? So what are your thoughts on bottom unity? So for anyone who doesn't know, that's the idea of the anti-authoritarian right and the anti-authoritarian left allying against authoritarianism. And there's talks about trying to set the Libertarian Party up to be like that, and then just in the libertarian movement in general.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very in favor of bottom unity. It's hard to explain. Most of the arguments, I'm more of an anarchist, but I'm also in the LP and the libertarian community in general. So I've seen like extensive ANCAP versus ANCOM debating. I've been in like the group for it for 4 years. It's just stupid. You believe the same thing. Like I identify as a Rothbardian, but like actually well-studied ANCOMs and well-studied ANCAPs who have like are consistent with their ethics, they can perfectly coexist in like in a free society. So I don't really see the point in arguing anymore. Like let's just work towards freedom.
Yeah, I've seen
market handle what economic system wins.
Jeremy, what are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, I mean, for the most part, I agree. I believe that we should unite as against the state and not worry about cultural things, and that's it's a distraction from the goal.
I think the roadblock that kind of pops up is when there's the whole thing about like, should people be able to have absentee property or private property? I mean, I think the two sides can get along and kind of be like, okay, you can have like Ancapistan over here and Ancapistan over here. But there's like, when I've seen the arguments, it's been like, well, like from like an Ancam or something, it's been like, oh, well, we have to overthrow capitalism because capitalism's exploitative or something like that. But I don't know. It's a worthy goal, but I don't know if it's going to work out or not. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when it comes down to it, after you eliminate the state, it will be more viable to do whatever type of economic thing you're trying to do, whether it's share, like if you're trying to share property with a bunch of people or make a community space, or if you're trying to have a like cooperative business. Because once you remove the state involvement in the banking system, a lot of the like bigger banks will collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of big banks handling most of the loans is one thing that stops cooperatives. Like cooperatives actually perform very well, like once they can get started, but they get denied loans because even though the data supports them being as efficient as capitalist businesses, a lot of banks will deny them loans. So I think it'll become more viable for people to practice socialism if that's what they want. Once the state is gone.
Right. Yeah. Well, looks like we got Edward here in the comments, who's just having a time.
He was mad about
I'm only
Garrett
having
Foster.
certain comments pop up.
So on the StreamYard, if you click comments, I don't know if you can see it. Should be on like the right-hand corner of your screen. You can see all the comments that are coming in from all the platforms right now.
Yeah.
So there's Edward's mad about Garrett Foster. It looks like, I don't know why.
He looks bad in general. Got a lot of laugh react.
Yeah, unite with people that will stab you in the back immediately after the state is dismantled. I mean, I guess I would need to see absolute evidence against, or not against that, but evidence for that. Got any for us, Edward? You seem quite chatty.
We can bring Edward in here.
So Edward is a collectivist.
Okay.
That's my favorite thing to do is call like alt-right people collectivists, because they are technically.
Oh yeah.
Alt-right ANCAPs. Like if you just call them collectivists for their stupid views on race, they get extremely triggered. It's hilarious.
Yeah, right.
And like with what he's saying, like he's against bottom unity or whatever. And I mean, I get the idea that there's going to be some leftists that aren't going to work with us, or right-wingers that aren't going to work with us. But I do think there are like voluntarists on both sides that actually can get along.
Right.
What do you find?
The thing is,
not mad. I find it hysterical. That's what Edward said.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Jeremy?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, there's obviously going to be, people on each side that isn't willing to work, like our dear best friend Edward here. But for the most part, I think people are going to see past that and past, the individual views of somebody, and everybody's going to, or not everybody, but most people are going to want to work together to just better themselves, and and I mean that's kind of what we do already. So I don't know why the a self-imposed title or economic preference is going to stop that, or end that desire just because the state ended. I don't understand it, but
okay. So moving on to another topic. I mean, we can retouch on some of these in a little bit, But Rachel, what are your thoughts on the direction and future of the Libertarian Party? Do you think it's going in the right direction? Do you think it's an absolute train wreck, or somewhere in between?
Both. Hold on, I'm reading the comment.
The one about worker co-ops?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, wouldn't it be it wouldn't be the Libertarian Party if there wasn't slight train wreckness involved. I mean, it's just kind of I wonder if is it a bug or is it a feature?
It's just who we are.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know. I have some like strategies that I've thought of that people could use in certain states to expand the Libertarian Party. Like if you have a hard blue state like Maryland, just go to the Republican Party, talk them all into a wall, make them support progressive things, because that's the direction the Republican Party has to move anyway. Just
right.
Because they can't keep saying, like, they're not going to keep getting votes if they keep doing old traditionalism stuff. So
Right.
a lot of younger Republicans are moving libertarian anyway. Go to them, tell them this is a blue state, you're never going to win. Just become a libertarian. And then if you're in a hard red state, do the same to the Democrats. That's a state strategy for expanding the party.
Would
I
you?
don't know.
What were you going to say?
What did you say?
I would say, would you worry at all about people coming in like that, not actually really changing their views to match libertarianism and just kind of staying with the old Republican
you gotta
views?
watch them. That's one of the problems, because people have just a lot of people have been pushing, just trying to recruit from the Republican Party. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying go there and change their views to being like socially libertarian, and they allegedly already have the economics and guns down, so then they should be there. If you can go to Democrats and convince them that guns aren't horrible and that a lot of their ideas for helping the poor could be better done by the state. I'm just saying, like, you're never going to take on a party in the state it's ruling in, and I don't really have a strategy for, like, states that are mixed.
I mean, you might be able to do a little bit of both.
That's true. But give the people who are looking to oppose the ruling party in their state an option. Like, tell them that you're an option and that you're more likely to win than the party that they're already in. And then just stay strict with like libertarian values. Like if someone keeps clinging to their like Republican social views or their Democrat economic views, we're not about that. Like, we'll work with you on the things that we want that you want, but you're not changing our party.
Yeah.
The problem, there is definitely a problem of people trying to cater to Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I see a lot of is, just this catering to Republicans instead of, there is, there's a difference between outreaching and trying to change views and, having a discussion, about libertarian ideas with somebody versus just catering to Republicans and, and trying to also capture them as a part of the base. And that's not how you go about it. That's how we get, a bunch of frog people in libertarian Twitter. Like I mean, that's what kind of has happened. And it doesn't advance the movement, and people from outside of it see a bunch of frog people, and you're not going to convince anybody else to come in because, well, the frog people are just terrible. So you kind of self-sabotage there by more or less giving yourself a ceiling of people that are going to be willing to associate with that. And then you're stuck in a rut.
Yeah, a lot of the catering that certain people do, it's like the people who believe this socially conservative stuff, they're never going to leave the Republican Party. There's no need to cater to those people. Cater to the like fiscal conservatives who don't care if you get gay married, that are still clinging to the Republican Party for some reason. Like, just go to them and be like, "Hey, you have a party."
Right. I mean,
And then, like, Democrats who are less extreme on economic stuff and like, they don't really care if you have a gun, find them and be like, "Hey, you don't have to cling to the Democrat Party. You have a party that represents you." Yeah, Edward, I never said we should cater to progressives or Democrats. I'm fine. Social progressives, that is libertarianism. Libertarianism is socially progressive. I don't mean economically progressive.
So we can go back to the libertarian to alt-right pipeline stuff a little bit. What are your thoughts on Stefan Molyneux?
Oh, I have some opinions about him. I think he's someone who's deeply damaged, and like, because he's been very open that he had a horrible relationship with his mother. I feel like that has morphed into just hating women for him, and that's what dragged him down the pipeline. So he's someone I feel sorry for more than someone I hate. Because, like, I've just watched a lot of his content other than his alt-right shit because I'm an ANCAP, and yeah. I feel very sorry for him, but like, no, the movement needs to abandon him at this point because he's just gone insane with the alt-right shit.
Yeah, I noticed that popped up kind of around the whole rise of Trump thing, and the cynic in me says there was kind of a money grab aspect, but I'm sure there's multiple factors to it. But I've noticed that there's definitely a market for these alt-righters or alt-lighters or whatever you want to call them. I feel like that's a lot of what's behind the podcasters doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but like what I just explained with Stefan Molyneux, I think that captures like the kind of demographic that they take advantage of. They do take advantage of damaged people who are looking for something to fix their problems. That's what fascists always do. Like they took advantage, like in Nazi Germany, they took advantage of those who were severely disaffected and gave them something to blame for it.
Yeah.
I've seen the modern, like, the alt-right movement do this with people who grew up without fathers. They push the like social traditionalism thing as a cure to that.
Interesting. Yeah, I never had really thought about that one before. I mean, like,
if you look at there's a couple demographic studies on the alt-right. They do frequently come from like backgrounds where they're missing one or both parents, and just or have been through like other like things that are traumatic.
I could see that. Definitely there's some people who have some issues there for sure, and I'm sure a lot of it's a deep-seated thing in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole culture war thing just really, really interests me because, I mean, as somebody who claims to be, ANCAP and, without authority, how can you really control or, have, authority over, over the way that a society progresses culturally? And, and I guess maybe that's why they fall into the pipeline, because ultimately they realize that in order to enforce their social norms, they need some kind of authority to do it. But
agree.
It's just so weird to see somebody who identifies as an ANCAP but then gets so caught up in it, and I just don't get how they get so caught up in it that they fall down into this a need for authority to control a culture. Like it's just crazy.
And to keep go ahead.
Also, like the bordertarianism is a big hook in. Like, if people concede that one point, usually 6 months later they're like full on like down the pipeline somewhere. I think that I think an underlying like psychological issue behind the nationalism thing is like narcissism. Like they need to think they're better than other people, so they just like they end up thinking their race is better than people or something, and they become nationalists as a result of it.
Yeah, I've noticed the bordertarian thing a lot too. I think that's a part of. I think Hans Hermann Hoppe is kind of a big bridge there for them, and that's why so many of them are obsessed with him.
Yeah, that's definitely an ideological route to it.
Yeah, I mean, so many people. That's where I see them start is borders and fear of people that aren't from their same speck of dirt and they just. I mean, if I recall, that's kind of where like Chase Rachel's went down.
Yeah,
that's where it started, and then you're putting out books with people hanging from helicopters.
And the fascism is a step toward liberty article. What else did he had? He had that article where he called black people proto-humans. I think that was one of the first ones on his new site. There was like another article called, I think it was white nationalism is the surest path to a libertarian order or something like that. I've noticed. I know, but I've noticed he kind of vanished from like social media. But every once in a while, I'll go check his Radical Capitalist website or whatever it's called, and like his latest thing is just a long list of like white people killed by black people, like as if that proves anything.
Yes, people die. Congratulations.
People kill each other, unfortunately. Like, yeah,
Trace Rachel's pisses me off because he used to be like openly like bisexual and polyamorous, and now he talks about degeneracy, and I'm like, what the fuck? What were you just doing like 2 years ago?
That's where that whole
was it one of you guys who got him to say that you can unsuck dick?
It was a guy I was about to say that. It was a guy in our group, Jeff Pope. I think he was talking to him about Chase's past, and he was like, "I don't know, bro. You can't unsuck a dick." And then Chase just goes, "Actually, you can." And he got pretty.
Explain to me the process.
That was. Honestly, that's like one of the best moments ever in anything. Is just the whole fact that you literally have gotten so caught up in a culture war that you literally think you can unsuck a penis. Like,
one of my questions is, it's like you'll frequently find that with like the kind of cultural traditionalist people. Like everyone knows, the stereotypical story of some anti-gay senator gets caught with his pants down and some dude sucking his dick in a bathroom. I want to know, what the fuck is Baladu hiding? What is he into? What's his Pornhub browser look like? If anyone has hacking skills, just get this information for me. Don't commit crimes. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Seriously.
The
if anyone finds Baladoo's fat life, I want to know.
It is true though. The whole projection thing is just it so often turns out to be true. Obviously, like with Chase, obviously that kind of went in reverse, but it's true. They instill these values and say that they're for something, but ultimately they get caught doing exactly the opposite of what they preach. And it's another part of that culture war thing is just it's invented, it's made up, it's in your head. You won't win a war that's in your head that you you will always lose. You always lose the culture war.
It's with another one of them, Jared Howe. He used to be like a conscious rapper or something like that. Some of his stuff's still out there.
I got blocked by him for one comment.
I've
never
blocked by
interacted
him.
with him, and I found out he was a person. So I went through his profile, found something to comment on because I wanted to argue with him because I hear he's fun to argue with.
Yeah.
And he posted something anti-immigration, and I just commented, that feel when you're so afraid of people of color that you cuck yourself by begging for more government, and he just blocked me.
He's blocked me like 6 or 7 different ways because he had a time where he unblocked everybody on Facebook. He had a time where he made maybe 2 or 3 new accounts, and on his newest account that I think he made it last December, I was just like blocked the day he made it. Because he just like he just knows. Because I wrote an article about him a couple years ago, and apparently I heard through the grapevine that like he wanted to sue me over it. It was right after he got kicked out of being libertarian for making all these comments about how Jews run the world and stuff like that. He definitely got even crazier after that, or maybe he was just hiding it before. I think it might be a mix of two. But he ended up co-hosting Chris Cantwell's show while Cantwell was in jail after Charlottesville. Fun fact.
Well, for prison.
I think that's happening. So maybe
Oh
Jared
yeah, he was
can.
convicted.
Yeah, so maybe Jared has a new show.
Stalk out of people, and I'm happy because he did it to some of my friends too. Like he would stalk people and make very credible threats of violence to them, to the point where some of the people he stalked had to move. So at that point, I'm like, I don't give a fuck what happens to you, because if you haven't violated the NAP yet, you are literally following people around, telling them you're going to.
Yeah, I mean that's a very credible threat.
Yeah.
Like announcing your intention to kill someone, I think that justifies self-defense right there.
Right.
What else do we got?
So from what I've understood, I know we've interacted a little bit back and forth around the internet, but I know you're pretty involved with kind of the community. You founded a lot of Facebook groups. What kind of view does that bring you? What kind of view does that bring to you? What do you see, and then how has that allowed you to, being involved with so many people, allowed you to evolve in your views personally by interacting with a lot of different people, since you've first kind of become part of the liberty movement?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think libertarians are good people. I've stated some of the issues that the community has as a whole in here. Like if we would just if the good libertarians would stick more firmly to their beliefs and kick out the shitty ones. Like I don't know how Adam Kokesh is still doing well. Like he's a scumbag. I don't know how some of the alt-right types are still doing well, because they're scumbags. If we could just more if you were going to talk about letting the market handle things and put your money where your mouth is, only support things that line up with your beliefs.
Right.
But overall, I think libertarians are generally good people. I think if we can figure out how to bring our message to different people and push different ways of spreading the message. You need to spread a message 50 or 100 different ways if you want to get out there, because everything will be received differently by different people. Everyone gets into the movement for a different reason.
Right. Yeah, not everybody enters in because they saw Ron Paul, at the Republican debates, in 2008. Yeah, I did too. But I mean, that's the thing, is not everybody enters the movement in that way. Yeah, there needs to be different kinds of messaging for different kinds of people, and I think that's something that Spike has, Spike himself.
Oh God, I love Spike
presented.
Cohen.
Well, we all love Spike Cohen.
Yeah, I just went to see Spike the other night on Thursday.
He's been around me so many times, but I've had to work every time. He's been in Virginia Beach, he's been in DC, he's been in Nova. Where's Dover? Where's Dover? What state?
Delaware.
Delaware. Yeah, he was in Delaware.
Yeah, I'm really hoping he ends up running in 2024, because I feel like he should be on the top of the ticket right now.
Yeah, I feel like he'd make a good presidential candidate. My thing is if in the 2024 Libertarian Party, the run for candidate, him and Vermin need to work something out, because if they're running against each other, that's going to split both. Like, we're going to end up with someone shitty as the candidate, because that's going to split votes.
Yeah, true.
So if they can be running mates again, or like kind of reverse running mates, like Vermin be the vice, he be the president, because I think they've both done pretty decent things for the movement. I think Spike is a wonderful speaker and would make a great presidential candidate.
I agree.
I have the feeling it's going to end up being Amash in 2024, just because I feel like that's not who I would support. But I feel like if he ends up running, I feel like the majority of the party is going to get behind him, like at least the pragmatic types. And I feel like he'd win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I didn't have much. Who was the Mises Caucus guy running?
Jacob Hornberger.
Hornberger? I never found something to have a problem with him, but his fan base was so annoying.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with a lot of the Mises types. Like, some of the candidates they put forward are fine. I didn't mind Hornberger at all. I thought I would have been okay with him in general. But I kind of don't want to give more influence to some of the other members of that caucus. I mean, I was a former member of it myself. I know what goes on there. There's some good people, and then there's some not so good people, and I feel like that latter category is growing right now with the new people they're bringing in, with all the podcaster recruitment. And when I say podcaster, I'm talking about Dave Smith, Woods, but not to the extent with Smith. I feel like Smith is a lot worse, because he's way more open about being like, oh yeah, there's not really a problem with Holocaust deniers, or Nick Fuentes is a fellow traveler. And then,
Jesus
like, if you,
Christ.
Oh, I know. We played one of,
Nick Fuentes is a Nas Bowl, right? Or like a full-on
Yeah,
I can't remember. I've
basically
seen him debate Vouch and Destiny, but
he calls himself, I'm pretty sure he calls himself a civic nationalist, but he makes it clear, he'll kind of give you hints, like, that he's just a straight up white nationalist.
Something about 6 million cookies.
Yeah, that was Nick Fuentes' Holocaust denial video that Dave Smith was like, oh man, that's hilarious. Like, he's like, people were telling me you're a racist, or he made this Holocaust denial video, and like, oh, that's hilarious. That's what Dave said to Nick when he had him on.
Jesus Christ.
And I remember at the end of he's had him on twice in the last year or so. Nick on Dave's show.
He's had Nick Fuentes on. Does he debate them? Because I'm fine with what Destiny the YouTuber does.
Oh yeah,
debate them. But like, if you're not challenging them at all, that's platforming.
Right. So he challenged him a bit on the first episode, especially, but it was more like about tariffs and stuff like that. On the second episode, he was kind of making fun of the idea that Fuentes is a racist, or that Fuentes is a bad person. And I remember at the end of the first episode, he was like, oh, well, let me ask you some questions and we'll see if we're fellow travelers. And he's like, end the wars. And Fuentes is like, yes. And then he's like, end the welfare state. And Fuentes says yes. And then there was one other question. Jeremy, do you remember what it was?
I don't remember at all.
But then at the end of that, he's like, you know what? That's pretty damn good. And then the episode ended like that.
Yeah, that's really stupid. If you know that someone's a Holocaust denier, and
Dave has all those quotes
I just read a comment that was Nick Fuentes is really hated by Ben Shapiro, and I'm like, I would think the Jew hates the Nazis. I was about to say, if Nick Fuentes joins the LP, it's over for me trying to recruit in the area I live in. I live in like a Jewish neighborhood in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is courting, people with these views versus exposing and coming at them and meeting them where they're at with libertarian views. You can't just say, oh well, we both want to end wars, so we're all libertarians.
Oh, it was the Fed was the other thing.
Oh,
that was the other third
question.
Oh
yeah, Nick Fuentes thinks the Fed is run by Jews. Of course he wants that.
Right. I mean, that's yeah.
It might have been Eric. I'm not sure if it I have a debate. Like I just watch debates when I drive because I have like a 30-minute to an hour drive to work depending on traffic, and I just watch debates, and I don't remember if it was Eric Stryker or who's the dude we were Nick Fuentes. It was one of them, and they were talking about like how the Fed is bad, and I'm like, I agree with you. I don't agree with your reasons.
Exactly. Like, I don't think Nick Fuentes is like passionately anti-war because he cares about people in the Middle East or something like that. He just thinks he thinks the wars are like fought for Jews or something like that. Like, that's his.
Yeah, he thinks the wars are fought for Israel, and like
exactly.
Yes, but I don't dislike Israel because it's Jews. I dislike Israel because it's
of how they treat the
committing war crimes. I dislike it for the same reason I like the U.S. I mean, I dislike the U.S.
Yeah, no, exactly. But Dave I have some quotes from Dave when Fuentes was on his show where Dave was kind of defending the Holocaust denier thing. So this is direct quote from Dave. Let's just say that is the starting point, that 6 million Jews to the T, not 6,000,001, exactly 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. And someone says, yeah, I don't believe it. Why is that the most horrible thing ever? It's like, it's over. It's done with. Dave just kind of misses. I feel like he misses the entire point.
Go to an old folks home in my neighborhood, and you'll see how fucked up that is. Like,
I feel like he
literally
misses
people around here with numbers on their arms.
Right.
Are you going to tell them the Holocaust wasn't real? Like,
I feel like he misses the point of what Holocaust denial is about. It's not about like some guy looking through old records and being like, "Oh, this statistic is slightly off." Like, it's about a lot more than that. It's about like trying to minimize what happened. I've noticed a lot of Holocaust deniers are people that are like, well, it didn't happen, but it should have. Like, there's generally a very anti-Jewish sentiment that comes along with it. It's not just crunching numbers.
They talk about the number going up. The number's going up because they're finding more groups of non-Jewish people that were murdered. Like, their numbers kind of stayed at 6 million for Jewish people because, like, I think it was easier to track the population because it's a closer-knit community. The Nazis murdered, the number I learned in school was 5 million other people, but apparently the estimates have gone up a lot of just, like, they were from the wrong country or, something like that.
Yeah, I think there was like the wrong religion, or some of them were gay or something like that. I know they're both of those are targeted.
Yeah, that's one of America's war atrocities, is that when they went to free Holocaust survivors from camps, the ones with the pink triangles, they just put them back into prison because they knew that meant gay.
Damn.
So yeah, it's a bunch of other groups of people than just Jews.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the guy in the comments, mentally disabled people too. That was a big one because they were all about eugenics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that whole, and that's the thing, is that whole line of questioning. Well, it wasn't 6 million, maybe it was 5 million or 7 million. Things like that is, I mean, it's a complete distraction from the actual point you're trying to make. It's that just asking questions kind of thing, and everybody knows when you're just asking questions what you really mean, what you're really getting at, the logical conclusion you want your audience to reach after just asking some questions. So it's and to not even see through that, or to pretend to not see through that, is I mean, it's whatever, I guess. It's people that don't see through that are just, I don't get it. But
yeah, I wonder if Dave doesn't see through it, or if he does and he's just trying to get his podcast follower numbers up. Because Dave actually used to be, I know he used to be like an anti-Bordertarian guy, at least somewhat. Like, he was, looking back at his tweets from like 2016, he was definitely an open borders guy. And I think when I went on his show, he talked about being open borders at one point, but he's definitely shifted the other way recently. When you ask him what his border position is, he generally doesn't come out and say like, "Oh, I'm for closed borders," but he'll give you like the reasoning for it. He'll be like, "Well, I can see why we'd want this," and he'll give some argument like, "Well, would we want people doing meth in a public school or something like that?"
That's called property, not a national border.
No, I know.
That's the dumbest conflation I see them make is like comparing it to just, would you let anyone walk in your house? No, that's my property. That's not the same as a national border.
Right. Yeah, it's no concern.
You don't justly own everyone else's land.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. It's no concern who my neighbor invites over for dinner. You know, whether they're from, you know, across the street or, you know, from Mexico. It just, and to conflate the whole thing with property is just, I don't get it.
I really think it's just a money making thing for some of these guys, because there's definitely a market for it, and they see they'll mention something or they'll have Fuentes on and they'll see their numbers going up. Like I know I've argued with Pete, what's his name, Quinones or something like that in the past, and he used to be very anti-bordertarian, anti-liberty hangout. He'd be making fun of them all the time, but then I feel like he kind of got in with the Dave Smith crowd. And when he was in our group a few months ago, I had that whole thing where I was like, are you okay with saying that like Molyneux, people who think like Stefan Molyneux shouldn't be in the LP? And he just kind of danced around it. Do you remember that, Jeremy?
Oh
yeah.
Gosh. I think so.
But then he was trying to say, like, and then we asked about like Matt Kuhnel or Kino or however you pronounce his name, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well, he's definitely not in." And I like agreed with him, like we don't want Matt either. But he refused to say that about Molyneux because I feel like he knew he'd piss off the people who are given the Patreon dollars or however they're making money now.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have anything else we'd want to touch on?
I can't think of anything else. Do you have other topics that you had outlined?
That's pretty much what I had.
Yeah.
Okay, we can wrap up then. Rachel, do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Anything you want to advertise or anything like that?
Nothing to advertise. Yeah, I don't know. That's my message. Just try to move forward. Try to like be unapologetic about your social views, and I think if we just continue being libertarians, and you know, not letting the alt-right just push their stuff in our circles, that will slowly they will be scared off.
Absolutely.
That's the strategy. Just be libertarian, and then the non-libertarians will eventually
damn good.
sort themselves out.
Yeah, like Dave Smith would say, that's pretty damn good. Well, thanks again for coming on today, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you again in a couple weeks.
Have a great day.